Okay, looks like everybody has joined. Okay, I'm gonna kick things off for our annual meeting this year. The first thing to say is that we are recording this meeting, and we will be making the recording available on our website. So just to let everybody know that that is the case. If I look like I'm pausing, I set a waiting room on this meeting. So as I admit people, that's what I'm doing. My name is Nikki Wilson. I'm one of the assistant directors here at the farm. My role is assistant director of internal operations. And I'm going to be hosting a bit this evening, but I won't be the only person talking, which is good. Just want to kick off by saying thank you for being here. Thanks to everyone. It's nice to see the list growing. I can see it, more people coming minute by minute. So just to say again, for the people who just joined, we are recording this meeting, but the other housekeeping things are we have muted everybody as they join the meeting. This is because we have a question time at the end of the meeting that we've kind of protected for questions. So if you have a question throughout the presentation, because there's quite a few things that we're going to go through, we'd ask that you go to the chat function, Zoom chat function, and there's an option there to send a message to everyone, or you can pick a member to send a message to. You can send a private message. If you could send your questions to Erin O'Brien, who's waving, and I'm going to ask maybe if Erin, you could put something in the chat just so people know, can see your name and to see who to message. And Erin will collate all the questions and then ask them of us at the end. So I think that's all the housekeeping things. So we're going to kick things off. I can move on to the next bit. There we go. Little thumbs up from everyone. Can you see the screen? Did it move okay? We're good. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go over the agenda quickly. So Casey Townsend, our executive director, is going to kick off the meeting by going through the Natick farm, different kind of areas, different departments, and how they integrate with each other and overlap, and ultimately how they all relate to our mission. And then we will go through all of the different staff members and board members. So there's quite a lot of new faces in 2022. And so it's nice to be able to put some faces to names. We'll move on to an overview of the 2022 financials. So Casey will take us through those as well. And then from here, we'll look at some various highlights from the past 12 months and sort of a special story as well will be at that point. Then we'll move on to an overview of the barn rebuild. So Tom, one of our board members, will be going through the overview of where we are on the barn rebuild. We'll have a brief look forward at 2023 before handing over to Haley, our amazing livestock manager, who will be giving us a kind of livestock management basics 101 overview, which we're really excited about. So I am going to hand over to Casey.
Hi everyone, my name is Casey. I'm the executive director here at the farm. And for those of you who've been or haven't been, the farm is a really special place. This slide was set up very thoughtfully. If we look at kind of the mission is the foundation of what we do, and it is below the day-to-day of our operations. So our mission is to really intersects at this place of education, production, and events. And so we do all those different things through agriculture, through keeping this land productive, through educating people about what we do here and how we do it. And it lives itself out in kind of three main areas in terms of the day-to-day. And those areas are the production, the education, and then internal operations, which includes all of our events and things like that. It's not as cut and dry as putting us all into one of those buckets. And it's a pretty special place. And I've worked at a bunch of different places, and in many places, people work in their silos and they, I do IT, I do this. The very special thing about this organization is that people are able to support each other in many ways, whether they're in the production side, they help with education, whether in the education side, they help with the production work. People at this organization wear many different hats. And I think one of the most beautiful kind of displays of that happened over the last year was the harvest dinner that we had here at the farm for the first time ever. And I think about examples of everyone working together, from Mike growing the flowers and Emma, growing the food, to the education team helping out with the events. And it was this wonderful kind of coalescence of all the teams coming together. And that's just not a special thing that happens. It's kind of a day-to-day thing that happens. So it's a pretty lucky place to work in terms of like who we are and what we all believe. Nikki, do you want to go to the next slide? And these are just some of the folks on the production team. But again, the folks that work in the production also do a lot of education as well. And I kind of think of this kind of team's role as lots of juggling. It's thinking about the technical side of growing. And then also, how do we teach people about that? And how do we do it all at the same exact time? And it's a good skill to have. It's a hard skill to have, but the folks that are on this team do it really, really well. Combined, the crew that you see in front of you on the top line has about over 50 years of growing experience, which is pretty amazing. We'll go left to right. We have Haley, who's our livestock manager, who works with everything from the birth of our little babies to the adulthood of all of the animals that we have here. Mike is our flower manager. Em is our vegetable manager. So they deal with everything from the seeds that start in the greenhouse all the way to fruition of the different things that happen, whether it's the flowers or the zucchini or the squash. Rich is our maple manager and also works on the facility side. So Rich is in charge of all what I think is the sap to syrup. Jackie is we have a kind of a long running joke with Jackie because she has worked or volunteered at the farm for over 12 years. So there's amazing things that Jackie knows from a historical perspective that no one else knows. Jackie's one of our part-time employees who we value a lot. We also have a lot of other people who come throughout the season. So we have if we can go train your eyes on the bottom set of slides now. So we have Drew, Savannah, Mira, Matthias, Ryder, Jay, and Nate. That's our current cohort of apprentices. So our apprentices commit to us for 2 years throughout the entire season. So they see everything from syrup to birthing to seeds to production, everything. They come with us through 5 hours each week and then up for 43 full-time weeks during the growing season. And then kind of in that same vein, we also have the teamwork crew, and that's a big powerhouse crew that comes during the summer to do usually a large infrastructure project. And if you're familiar with the farm, the pasture walk was the latest project that they undertook this past summer. And then we have many, many volunteers as well. So we're very lucky that many people want to come and learn and work at the same exact time. On any given year, we can be hosting the equivalent of about 2 to 4 full-time equivalents. That helps us out in so many ways. It helps us with our animal care, with our seeds, for everything from day to day. We're very lucky to have so many volunteers who come to the farm. Next up will be Catherine talking about the education.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Catherine Sullivan. I'm the Assistant Director of Education here at the farm, introducing the many faces of our wonderful education team. We've got Emily Johnson, who's our School Scouts and Volunteer Coordinator. She's also most recently our Maple Maven. So for all things Maple, she can be one of your go-to people. Emily joined our team in September. She has a background as a biology teacher. Anna and Tracy, who are up next, are our wonderful forest gnomes teachers. They teach in other programs too, primarily forest gnomes, which is our program for 3 to 5 year olds are out in the woods. We've got Max on the top line there. Max joined us recently, and Max is an AmeriCorps service member, specifically serving in the TerraCorps program. So they're here focusing on youth education projects. Moving to our bottom row there, Murphy is one of our farm educators focusing at the moment on programs for our homeschool students at the farm. He also teaches with us in the summer. Pri joined us this fall and has been working in programs with our younger children. Rebecca Kelly and her counterpart Chris have been working together for several years in our Sprouts program, another program for 3 to 5s. We've got Ken, Dee Dee, and Susan, who among other folks are some of our part-time educators and naturalists on the farm, helping with maple tours, field trips, and our vacation programs, just to name a few. And our last image here represents some of our other wonderful educators, including our summer staff. We hire anywhere from 10 to 15 plus people to join us for the summer, in addition to these wonderful folks featured here. Thank you. Back to you, Nikki.
Thank you. So moving on to internal operations. So as Casey's already mentioned, all the teams like help out with each other, and often we wear many different hats. But I like to think of this team as kind of a bit of a scaffolding and to enable the production and education team to kind of do what they do best. This team oversees things like marketing, events, fundraising, and various different office management activities. So we're a relatively new team. I think, as I said, there's lots of new faces here at the farm. So myself, Erin, and Jen all started in 2022. And Suzanne has been our voice of reason in 2022, who's been here for a few more years and was able to kind of help us on our way. So starting with Erin as our communications and outreach coordinator. So Erin is the face behind newsletters and social media accounts, amongst many other things. Moving on to Jen, who is our donor and office coordinator, and who has an interesting role as she's also splits her time between office and production, which is exciting because she's able to kind of bring both of those experiences to each of the different roles. But when she's in the office, Jen is helping take care of our members and our donors, and supporting other office functions as well, whether it's fundraising or events. And Suzanne, as mentioned, as our voice of reason, but also as our bookkeeper, accountant, and so she keeps us in check and lets us know where we are financially. And Suzanne supports each of the staff members, whether they have a question about their budget, to their any questions about their pay and things like that. And I'm going to hand over to Mary now to talk about the board. Hopefully, let me see if I can get Mary. Mary, if you're talking, you might be on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Fantastic, great.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're here. That's just wonderful. All right, here's our board. Our board members, officers, student board members, and our regular members. So we've got 4 officers on the board, myself, Patty Luke, Andrew Williams, and Leanne Cowley. And then we have our regular members, which would be Tom Taylor, Eric Stitch, Becca Stendhal, Eric Nguyen, and Henry Dickey. We also have 2 student board members, Max Cohen and Hildy Wicks. They are non-voting members, and they're in high school and are with us during I'd say 2 to 3 high school years, depending upon their schedules, to learn about what it is to be a board member. So we've had fantastic student board members, and Max and Hildy are fantastic as well. So we really have a great cohesive group as a board. We do want to expand the number of board members, though, this year. So if you are interested, we would love to talk to you. Please take a look at the website, the farm's website, and the board of directors section, and take a look. That'll have pretty much most of the things you want to know. And then my email is at the bottom there. And if you want to pursue and just have a conversation, email me. And we'll talk by phone or in person. If you're interested, we'd love to pursue it. So thank you so much. That's the board. Thanks, Nikki.
So if we take a look at the organization from a fiscal level, one thing that I was taught coming into a farm setting is there's a lot of variability when you work in natural systems. And so one thing we kind of think about the farm as like a diversified portfolio essentially, and how can we take some of that variability out? And so across the farm, we do a lot of different things. And that kind of can range from the tangible products that we do to the education. All these things kind of come together to produce something that is very much in alignment with our mission. And as you can see from the pie chart in front of you, in 2022, our products made up about a quarter of our income stream. So those are things that I think are tangible. It's our vegetables, our meat, our syrup, our flours. We also had about less than a quarter in events, and that's our membership, our donation, our harvest dinner. Something that I'm excited about for events moving forward is that we can have in-person live events again, which is going to be really great moving into 23. We're looking forward to having our Maple Magic again, our harvest dinner again. A small percentage of our income does come from grants and miscellaneous, and we often use those for infrastructural purposes, not necessarily to fund positions. We find that that's more sustainable for the organization. And as someone once pointed out, the best crop that we grow is our educational programs. And so you can see that those programs make up a big percentage of our income. So that's everything from our school scouts, our summer program season, our after school, our Forest Gnomes program. They are some of the keystone essentially of what we do here at the farm. On the expense side, the biggest investment that we have is in our people. So one thing that I'm really proud of as an organization, that we are able to provide full-time year-round work for a large chunk of people. Relative to organizations need to work in seasonal offerings. One thing that we can do is we can provide more stable work for people who want to be in the agricultural sector or the educational sector. And we also provide a lot of employment for part-time seasonal employment for our summer program crews as well. And one thing that I always get really excited about is the investment that we make in the teens as well for the community. And so this year, between our teen work crew and our apprentices, we were able to keep 34 teens employed as well. So that's a really nice touch that we can then, say we're developing younger people, we're giving them job opportunities, we're educating them in a very thoughtful manner. If we move ahead, if we can, brag a little bit about, what happened in 2022. There's kind of one story that we've been kicking around for a big chunk of the year. And I think this story kind of lives at that confluence of what I spoke about before, is the education, the production, and how these kind of two things come together. So the picture on the left of your screen is of a young Antonio Nisi who started in our homeschool educational program. So this is a great program for students who are in homeschools all across Metro West here. They come to the farm once or twice a week and they learn about everything from, collecting eggs to planting vegetables. Antonio is and continues to be a very special person. And we quickly realized that he was a great candidate for our apprenticeship program. And so the picture that you see there is Antonio with his first check that he ever got as an apprentice. Antonio continued to impress us and wow us with his carpentry skills and his vegetable knowledge and his animal husbandry skills. We quickly fast-tracked him into a part-time employee as a homeschool student. And then somewhere along the lines, Antonio got bit by the farming bug. And late last year, maybe earlier in 2021, his family decided that it was time to go full scale, and they bought a farm in Washington, Vermont. And currently they have about 35 steers and about 160 acres that they manage. And part of that process was, feeling safe and feeling empowered by what we were able to teach them here. And so the picture on the right of your screen is Haley, myself, Antonio, and his brother Marcello, who also helps manage the farm. with their first check from our farm. So we were able to purchase one of their steers and sell it here at our farm. The difference in checks is quite sizable, but that's really great that we were able to support them as they grow their operation. And they have just such a zest for what they do, and it's amazing the scale that they're doing it at. It impresses me and scares me a little bit, just because it's a big time operation. And I'm very proud of both of them and their family for taking that jump to do that. And if you also want to kind of see what full scale farming looks like in Vermont, they have a really awesome YouTube channel called The Vermonters, where you can see what that kind of whole piece is. So that's what we're kind of, that's our big success story for the year, thinking about the Nices then and now. We're also very impressed about the things we've continued to do this year. So if we can skip to the next slide. In terms of the production success for this year, it's interesting working in this space because there's so much variability in what we do, between the maple season changing and a lack of snow or a drought or too much rain. The best thing that we can do is build resilience into our system and our practices as best we can. And so things that we do to do that. So we've completely switched to our no-till system, which is a really carbon heavy system, which is capturing a lot of the carbon in the ground, in the soil. It's building soil health. We've continued to be organic. We don't use any pesticides here at the farm. We've really focused a lot on our pasture health in the past year, because pasture health is relative to our animal health. And on top of that, all of these kind of things allowed us to be kind of small and nimble and resilient. And so some key numbers that we've kind of compiled over the years, over this year specifically. So 64 gallons of maple syrup produced, all hand done, hand carried, hand boiled. Pairing it with our 445 maple tours that we did this year, which was a pretty astounding number. And again, you can see that confluence of education and production together. On the vegetable side, we did a lot of different varieties of tomatoes and eggplant and greens. We did a number of veggie CSA shares. And one thing we're most proud of is our collaboration with the Community Services Department, being able to offer 20 senior CSA shares. And that's a nice collaboration where we grow the produce. It's picked up by volunteers from the Community Services Department and hand delivered to their doorsteps. It was a pivotal program that we really enjoyed during COVID, and we just keep continuing that as well. On the animal side, we did 16,000 eggs, which is really great, and raised just about 70 turkeys, all on our pasture this year. And those are production by the numbers.
On the education front, there are 3 key highlights of 2022 that I wanted to share this evening. The first, we celebrated the return of school field trips. Many restrictions that had been on schools and school districts were lifted, this spring. So April and May in particular, seeing just a whole number of schools that had visited us before, schools that were new to the farm. That was really a tremendous joy, getting kind of all of that hustle and bustle back on the farm in a way we hadn't seen since the beginning of the pandemic. Also this year, we received a number of particularly notable community accolades. We were nominated for and won the Community Kangaroo Award for family favorite in the Metro West. So that was wonderful to win that the first year we were nominated. Another category of community accolades too that I wanted to share was the number of referrals for new families that come our way saying, oh, I learned about the Natick farm through a local parenting group, whether on Facebook or elsewhere, both general interest groups as well as special focus or special interest groups too. So the number one way families find out about our programs is from word of mouth for a friend. So it's wonderful to see that continuing and new families finding us through existing fans of the farm, if you will. The third thing I wanted to celebrate and mention too was our diverse, multi-generational teaching staff. Our teaching staff throughout the whole year comprises folks from our apprentices, those the teens who make a 2-year commitment to us that Casey mentioned. So we've got apprentices joining our summer teaching staff. We've got teens interested in exploring education, working here on the farm in their first job, college work study students, working parents returning to work. We've got education professionals, seasoned naturalists. I like to say ages practically 16 to 60 plus, all devoting their time, energy, and heart to power our program. Thanks.
Hi again. So moving on to highlights from internal operations. So this 2022 was really jam-packed. It's quite hard to narrow down some of the highlights. I think one of the things that, as Casey mentioned, that's so exciting is that we have events in person again. And so that was really nice to see some faces here, like in person at the farm. And we're looking forward to kind of building on that in the next 12 months. And I guess one of the things as I was reflecting on the highlights from this year, and I know I've mentioned it before, but kind of having a relatively new team and how that's been for us, and certainly for me, the tight-knit support from the community around the farm has meant that they're like the transition into these roles and the kind of the learning about the farm has been that much smoother. So just want to take a moment to say thank you to everybody that's part of that community and that's kind of helped that happen. It's kind of, as you say, it's hard to put into words the feeling of support that is around the farm. So thank you. So to kick off a big highlight in terms of community support, everyone helped us hit the target to help rebuild the barn, which was just amazing. So again, just a huge thank you to everyone that contributed to that. As I said, Tom is going to take us through a bit more of a detailed overview about where we are with the barn rebuild, which is tantalizingly close. And we're very excited to hear about that. And so some of the other highlights throughout the year, it's quite event focused here with the Farm 5K and the Harvest Dinner. The Farm 5K we had in June, we had lots of participants, and the money raised from this event went to our scholarship fund, which helps families access the programs at the farm. And as Casey mentioned, the Harvest Dinner was back in person and for the first time was held on the farm, which was really exciting. The funds raised from the Harvest Dinner go towards the teen work crew and apprenticeship programs, which have already been mentioned, are kind of 2 paid work experience for teens here at the farm. And we're just wrapping up our annual appeal for the year as well, which was, again, the support for this was just amazing. So thank you to everyone for helping us hit over $25,000, which is for our production team. And you can see a big smile on Emma's face as we purchased some wind strip trays, and these are very durable, high quality seedling trays. They result in healthier seedlings, and as I say, they're durable, so they're going to last a good number of years. They won't need replacing. So this was really fantastic to be able to provide this for the production team. Other things that have happened off the farm, we've been attending events like Natick Days and Natick Nights. We love getting out and about. Erin is a star at arranging them, even taking Giuseppe to Natick Nights, I believe, this year, who I think people are still talking about him. I saw someone on Monday who was talking about him. So and so we're hoping to kind of go out and about a bit more in the next 12 months as well. Erin's also been working hard keeping our website up to date, and you will have seen lots of content on our social media. And this year, the Instagram sort of following has grown by 20%, which is amazing, and we hope to kind of build on that as well. Even more behind the scenes, there's lots of things happening in internal operations, whether it's maintaining databases or looking into other internal processes to help people do their jobs and enhancing people's general sort of engagement with the farm. So we continue to work closely with the rest of the staff team to make sure that everyone is being represented and has everything that they need. So I'm going to pass us over to Tom, who's going to talk about the barn. Thanks, Tom.
Hi, everybody. Tom Taylor. I'm a member of the board, and I have the honor of talking a little bit about the barn. So it may not look like you've been around the farm, and it may not look like a lot has been going on, but in fact, a lot has been going on in the progress towards building a new barn. So let's go through a little bit of what's been going on. So overall, we've got a design for the barn, and it's gone to the town of Natick, and we've got our permits. So we're kind of ready to go. All the paperwork and behind the scenes stuff is what's getting done. We've got engineering plans for the site, for the foundation, working on electrical, and we've got our timber frame designed. Also, all that's pretty excited. Again, still on paper. We're still honing the final little bits of the architectural drawings, doors, stalls, stairs, things like that. So, and going out to bid very soon, actually, probably in a few weeks. We've selected the windows, we've ordered them, they're being manufactured. So the timber frame. So timber frame's important because, you know, we could easily replace a historic barn with something simpler and easier, but it was important to build a new historic barn. And so we've selected a timber frame manufacturer, and we have purchased the Douglas fir timbers that are ready to be milled and brought to the site when the time's ready in the spring. We selected a greenhouse to replace, I don't know if anybody remembers the greenhouse that was attached to the barn. Well, the new greenhouse will be bigger, state of the art, and we've selected the manufacturer. They've done their design and their engineering, and they've procured their aluminum. Actually, this picture to the bottom right is their warehouse. So that's piles of aluminum and other materials ready for our greenhouse. And then that's sitting somewhere in Indiana, that I don't know where in Indiana, but that's so all that's being ready. Let's keep going to the next page, Nikki, please. We've selected our solar provider, and so when the barn goes up and there's a roof on the barn, the solar provider will be there and put a new solar array on the roof. That's been selected and ordered, and we'll have some brand new state-of-the-art solar panels. And then finally, Nikki mentioned this, 2022 was the year we finished off our fundraising drive. It had started in 2021 and achieved our goal of 1.2 million. Now, a lot of that happened right after the fire, but through about the middle of the year, we ran a fundraising drive. It included a generous match that we achieved, and have raised about $1.2 million to support the barn, the solar, the greenhouse. It sounds like a lot of money, but in fact, the effort to put back up a historical barn is not a couple of bucks. It actually takes a good bit. Also, we've recently, with the help of the staff, supplemented some of that 1.2 million as a foundation grant for the barn. We just recently got a Massachusetts Gap Energy grant for the solar, and we're approved for another program through the solar for the energy provider Eversource for additional rebates. So we've got the money starting to be put to work. Again, a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and only soon you'll actually see something physically changing. But in the meantime, thank you to all of the generous donors. You've helped them immensely in our plans and our, all of our efforts to build a new barn. So let's talk about the timeline of what we think we might have in 2023. So we were hoping to break ground in the fall. We ended up taking additional time to get the architectural drawings and specifics honed down to greater detail so we could get a better bid requests. We took a little time to line up the subs because the barn is on town land. And so there's some Massachusetts regulations that we have to follow in terms of paperwork and wages. So that took a little bit extra time to line up subs. to do the various bits of the work. And we didn't want to rush to get a timber frame up and have it sit there through the winter before we put the roof and all the rest of the siding and the rest of the pieces on the barn. So we decided to delay the start point, and that will kick off pretty soon. We think we're ready to start this month. Famous last words, I guess. But our lead construction manager has said he's ready to get going with site prep, fencing, environmental protection. So you'll actually see the site of the barn marked out and physically different than it has been for the last year. Soon after that, we start digging, we pour foundation, and in the spring, up goes the timber frame, soon to be followed by siding, stairs, decks, roofs, solar, and then finally the greenhouse. So a lot to be going on. Everybody, when you're on the farm and during the next year, as things happen, bring your phone, take a picture, send it to Aaron. We need a full historical record of the barn in all stages of going up. And look for frequent updates and stories once construction gets going. So thanks again. And that's it for the barn.
Well, thanks, Tom. So the big headline obviously is the barn rebuild, but I'm going to take us through some other things that we're looking forward to in 2023. So starting with the production side of things. So we'd like to increase the CSA shareholder numbers. They're a very popular product at the farm, so we're excited to be able to do this, and providing the community with fresh, locally grown organic vegetables and flowers is very important to us. We also hope to increase the amount of fresh meat available at the farm, with more fresh chicken sales, for example, happening in the later months of the year as well. So watch this space. We are also hoping to expand our adult education and workshop offerings. So we are obviously, as Casey mentioned, education is our biggest crop. And so we hope to kind of expand on this year. So again, it's a kind of very much watch this space. We would like more people to come to the farm and to learn about different farming practices. So yeah, keep an eye out for those. And importantly, we look forward to continuing working with the Conservation Committee and the DPW for collaborative opportunities across the town of Natick, and how we can help benefiting residents here. One of those things, or one of the examples of those things, is goatscaping around the town. So this is where we take our flerd, that's the herd of goats and the flock of sheep, around the town to different areas to graze, which is a very great project that we have going on. You see them out and about on your travels. So moving on to education, the main thing here is obviously, continuing to run award-winning programs. Catherine's in the full swing of planning for summer and planning the education programs for this year. So yesterday, actually, our registration opened up for members for the summer programs. And so we're really excited to have kind of the next cohort of young people on the farm and experiencing the amazing programs in education. And another thing that we're looking at doing is piloting weekend programming for families. So we obviously have a lot of our programs happening from Monday to Friday, but we know that we have lots of amazing visitors over the weekend as well. And so we would like to explore the idea of having more interaction with and engagement with people who are visiting at the weekend. So again, watch this space. Erin, there's going to be a lot of watch this space moments. And then moving on to internal operations, one of the things we're currently in the middle of is a strategic planning consultation process with the soil consultation group. This, as I said, is in the middle stages, so we don't have the kind of takeaways yet, but we are excited to be working with them and to see where it takes us. So And then we've mentioned a lot before about events. So we are looking at bringing back a kind of full suite of events at the farm. We just can't wait to see everybody's faces in person. And so this includes planning for events on site and also off site as well. So we will be keeping people up to date with that and with all the things that are coming up about on the farm, and really to kind of raise awareness about the farm and what we do, whether that's bringing people onto the farm or us going out and talking to people about what we do. So just a kind of quick overview about how you might support the farm or get involved with the farm in 2023, before we move on to Haley's part of the meeting. This is all the ways you can do. You can kind of get involved with the farm, and so one of the main things, again, looking at talking about events. We have Maple Magic coming up on the 4th of March, where we'll have a pancake breakfast at Memorial School, which is next door to the farm. And then we have tours going on at the farm as well. So we hope to see as many of you as possible with us on the 4th of March. But any questions about getting involved with the farm, please do. There's some contact details at the end. Check our website and give us a call, drop us an email. We are always very happy to answer questions and to hear from you. So that leaves me to hand over to Haley for probably the most exciting part of this meeting. So we're really looking forward to hearing what you have for us, Haley. Thank you.
Cool. Hi guys. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Hi, I'm Haley, as Nikki just introduced me. So I've been the livestock manager at Natick Community Farm for about a year now. I think I started last January, which is really exciting to be going into my second year managing the livestock here, because it takes about a year to plan a breeding cycle for livestock. So I feel like this is really the year where sort of I get to put into motion some things that I've been wanting to put into motion, which is awesome. So during the next little while, I'm just going to talk about like really general animal management at the farm, because I think I could talk for 3 days about specific things, which hopefully I'll get a chance to do a little bit more education as we go into doing some more adult workshops in 2023. So because we are a production operation at Natick, I tend to like to think about our animals as sort of my employees. I do it because every animal on the farm has a job to do, and then I think it's my job to provide them with a safe, happy, and healthy environment in which they can do their job. Their job being to provide us with a source of protein, be that meat or eggs. They produce some secondary products as well, but primarily we get meat and eggs from our livestock program at Natick Community Farm. So in order to keep our animals sort of like happy, healthy, and safe, that means we need to sort of supply them with the right equipment to do their job, which for me means like the correct protein in their diet, good quality forage in the form of hay, or good pasture space, which that feeds into a whole other like process of keeping our ecosystem happy and healthy in order to keep our food supply for our animals happy and healthy. And then as long as we sort of like keep putting in like high quality inputs into our animal employees, we'll get out really high quality outputs in the form of the protein that they're producing. And then sort of like in the spirit of thinking about managing our animals, I sort of like to categorize them into mammals and poultry, because at the farm we have a super diversified livestock operation. We have about 7 species that come through the farm, which is sheep, goats, pigs, rabbits, turkeys, and then we do sort of 2 different kinds of chickens. We do egg-laying chickens and meat chickens. So to start out, we'll sort of talk about the mammals a little bit. So for the mammals, they're all pictured on this slide here. I'm really proud that we breed all of the mammals that we have on our farm, which sort of allows us to have a closed loop. So what that means is that we can kind of create like a cycle within our own species without bringing in a lot of animals from off-site to sort of like help us to produce from what we already have. Which is a little bit of a hard thing to explain, but is a really exciting thing when you hit that point in your population, in a livestock population. Sometimes you do need to bring in some outside animals, like for the pigs right now. If you come to visit the farm, we have a loner boar right now. He's very handsome, but he'll be here for about 2 months, just breeding our 2 gilts who are pictured here. Hopefully soon there'll be an Insta poll to rename him, because the farm that sent him to us weren't so happy with his current name. So hopefully we'll have a hand in renaming him, which will be exciting. So feeding back to that inputs idea of the healthy pasture space, one thing I've really wanted to talk about tonight for people, because I've gotten a lot of questions over the last year, is why there aren't cows in the field anymore. So in the past, I think visitors were really used to seeing cows in the fields at Natick. But sort of the reality is that cows need a whole lot of space in order to be able to eat efficiently on the land that they're on. And our pastures at Natick are pretty overgrazed, which is also part of the reason why I'm really excited to be partnering with the town starting last year and moving into 2023 to goatscape other pastures around Natick. So we'll take the pressure off of the soil that we have at the farm in order to let it rest and recuperate, to sort of bring back a more full and healthy ecosystem at the farm by reducing the grazing pressure on the farm. And cows are a really impactful force on the soil, and in sort of a negative way if you can't move them really efficiently, and give them enough space so that they can spread out that impact on a larger space. And the other reason we sort of stopped having cows this year was just due to the amount of involvement that we ask from some of our volunteers and our apprentices and our teen working labor force. Cows are really big and kind of dangerous, and I really like to involve everybody who's on the farm in as much animal care and handling as I possibly can. There's been times where I'm teaching a 13-year-old how to flip a sheep so that we can trim its hooves safely without it running away, and you just can't do that with a 1,000-pound cow and a 13-year-old. You need a lot more equipment in order to be able to do that safely. So for those reasons, and also because we have the lovely, lovely beef provider in the Nieces, who also grew at the farm, it seems like it really made a lot of sense to sort of purchase in the beef from them and support them so that we can sort of let our operation rest and recuperate. And so that we can focus more in on the other mammals that we have, and breeding lots more sheep and goats so that our summer programs can hang out with all the little baby sheep and goats without the danger of their moms being around, because they're smaller and much more docile than a cow. Yeah, this year on that note for babies, we are expecting a lot of babies this year, just all across the year. If you kind of look on the bottom of each of these pictures I have on the slide, the top number is the amount of breeding females we have on farm, and the bottom number is the amount of babies that we could expect to come to the farm and maybe cycle through the farm in 2023. The numbers are pretty variable. Like for the pigs, honestly, we could have 0 piglets. We could have 28 piglets in May. It's sometimes hard with livestock managing plan really far out. It is sort of all about contingency planning and backup plan 1, backup plan 2, backup plan 3. If you have 0 piglets, 12 piglets, or 28 piglets, very different space requirements and involvement requirements from people. Never mind the bundles because they replicate way faster. So we'll figure that out later. Can you go to the next slide, Nikki? So the mammals, that's sort of like a super brief overview on breeding mammals. But for the poultry, it's a little bit easier because we don't breed them on site. We're able to buy in day-old chicks for the most part, especially for the meat birds and the turkeys that we grow at the farm. So the chicks hatch at an outside hatchery, and then they ship them overnight to the farm. We get them the next day. So they're still very, very little, but we don't need to worry about the incubating process and the hatching process. We just need to worry about growing the little tiny chick to a successful adult chicken or turkey. So this year, well, I suppose you can see underneath the slide for this one. Right now for poultry, we only have 200 birds on the farm. But over the course of 2023, because we sort of buy in from other places, I'm expecting to have 525 birds come through the farm this next summer, which is pretty exciting for me. Depending on processing schedules, which will be set on the 1st of March, I'm really hoping to be able to offer fresh chicken once a month to our community. It may end up having to be every other month, but chicken cycles really fast. Their production cycle for meat birds is only about 8 weeks. So we're sort of able to stagger it so that we can continue to provide fresh meat to our community as frequently as we can, which is a big initiative for me personally, and I think the farm moving forward. Layers are a little bit different, and Nikki sort of started talking about our egg production a little bit. But moving into the next year, I'm really, really excited. We're going to be able to offer sort of a more colorful carton of eggs to people. We ended up buying in last year some Winning True Blue and Winning True Green egg layers. So our coop is a little more colorful in chicken plumage, and our egg cartons are going to be a little bit more colorful and including green and blue and brown and white eggs, which is more for aesthetics than anything else, but having a diversity of chicken breeds, I think is really nice for our education staff to be able to talk about the fact that blue eggs exist naturally and green eggs exist naturally, and they don't come from every chicken, but some chickens they do. It's a weird nuance, but that's really nice to talk to the public about sometimes. We've also definitely heard the community's desire for more egg production from us. So moving into 2023, we're doubling our coop. Last January when we started, we had about 100 egg layers, and we have about 200 now. So as the days get longer and they start laying more productively, we should have a lot of eggs throughout 2023 to continue to feed our community the best we can. Yeah, those are some of the highlights moving into 2023 and some very general overview on some things I think about with livestock management. I really hope to be able to talk about more specifics this year through some adult workshops. Maybe a backyard chicken one specifically would be useful for our community. And I can really nerd out about care and keeping of chickens in it, which is what I love to do. So I think I'm going to turn it over to Erin now, who has been compiling a few questions.
Thank you, Haley. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Okay, so feel free again for anyone who joined us late or anyone who has forgotten to pop any questions in the chat. You can send them directly to me, or at this point you can put them in the chat in general and I can send them out to the person who should be answering them. The one I got two sort of questions here. One about we had a drought last year, and then someone else has noticed that we've had a pretty warm January, especially right now. So I guess this question would be for Casey. How do we prepare and adapt for weather, things like that? Is this going to affect maple sugaring this year? How do we plant differently, assuming droughts might happen, anything like that?
Sure. So let's take maple season first. I'll be the bearer of bad news and say that the projections for maple in Massachusetts, I've heard the dire prediction of there's less than 70 years of maple syrup production left in Massachusetts, and it's a tough place to be. In order for maple season really to kick off, we have to have the ground freeze. And so the sap really needs to be contained in the roots of the soil. And once that trigger temperature of above 32 and during the day, and then below 32 at night, that's kind of the movement of the sap up and down. The bad news is I kind of talked to my colleagues here in Metro West from Landsake. There's a couple of folks I work with in Medfield about maple season. The sap's been running. It hasn't necessarily stopped. And typically our maple season will start in February. So we're all kind of scratching our heads going, what do we do here? We're very much in uncharted territory because typically, for us in our operation, we'd be starting in, mid-February. I can remember when I started in 2013 here, we didn't tap our trees until March. So we can see that the shift kind of happening. It's the enterprise that we do that's kind of the most unpredictable, and in a way it's the most uncontrollable. The best thing we can do is kind of work with our colleagues here in Metro West to make a plan to say, we think it's going to be this time. Maple is so sporadic because once we tap the tree, we have about 6 weeks until that hole starts to seal over. I'm hoping that it'll get colder and hopefully lock that sap up. But this is something that's very troubling in terms of like shifting climate. It's affecting our maple syrup production quite heavily. Yes, there was a drought last year. And then the year before that, there were torrential amounts of rain. I think the only thing that's predictable is unpredictability. And I think as a farmer, you just build that into your system and you expect that unpredictability. The thing that we can do as farmers is create systems and practices that add resilience into our system. So as I alluded to before, we've been an organic farm certified since 1980, which is great for, the flora, the fauna, the insects that help us out. Haley alluded to something thinking about this place as a system. And what we try to do in that system is have very few inputs. Obviously, we have outputs in terms of our vegetables, our meat, our flowers, things like that. But the more we can actually rely on our own inputs, it definitely helps out this specific environment. And so things that we do here at the farm are, creating a closed loop system. So we have our animals, we take that manure, we turn it into our compost. It cooks, we put it on the field. That feeds our plants. If we have extra, material, extra vegetables, that goes into our animals, and this starts completing this cycle. In terms of practices, what we've done in the past couple of years is we've really gone heavily into a no-till system. And so the science is still out on the kind of the carbon sequestration aspects of that. But the general idea is instead of tilling our soil, which releases carbon into the atmosphere, we're actually sequestering it into the soil. And that sequestration has other benefits. Specifically, it increases our soil microbes. It helps with pests. It helps with diseases. We can, relative to other operations that do till, we can get in our fields faster because we already have our compost out in the field already for next year, which is great. That soil is there, it's in place, it's like a permanent system. This no-till operation is a smaller set of our like a regenerative approach to farming. Something we're also really excited about on the livestock side, which we're looking forward into 23 and beyond, is getting more into our silvopasture techniques of integrating our animals into the land, and working to integrate trees into that. So the trees will provide fodder, and then we're relying less on inputs coming from the external source as well. But the best thing we can really do is be resilient. We're in it for the long haul and just expect the unexpected.
That's great. Thank you, Casey. The other question I have is for Haley. You referenced we have a few different breeds of chickens. How do we choose the rest of the breeds or species of livestock that we have here at the farm?
That's a good question. And there's different reasons for each species, what breeds we have. I guess I'll focus on the poultry because it's maybe the simpler one. So for our egg-laying chickens, diverse sort of breed flock, diverse egg carton, which is nice. As long as they're still highly productive, that's sort of the main thing that I select for in the chickens. A lot of hatcheries will sort of categorize their chickens by sort of like good, better, and then best egg laying sort of production. So we always buy like the best egg laying production, then whatever color it is what works out. And then meat chickens, we're gonna do all Cornish crosses next year. If you eat chicken, you're eating meat from a Cornish cross chicken. It's the most efficient meat bird that there is for chicken, by a very long stretch. So like the typical chicken, like the ones pictured on the slide here, which are egg layers, would take about 16 weeks to get to maturity, and the meat production would be about like 3.5 pounds, whereas a Cornish cross takes 8 weeks to be about 6 to 8 pounds of meat. So I guess to answer your question generally, breed selection is based on sort of efficiency and also how they fit into our system. And also I guess what customers sort of want from it. So like for our turkeys, they're a broad-breasted variety because that's what people expect from their Thanksgiving turkey. I think they'd be a little sad to have like a normal proportioned bird, like a wild turkey on their table. It looks very different.
Awesome. Thank you, Haley. I have one comment and then one more question. We're very lucky and honored that Jennifer Nisi and the Nisi family were attending this meeting tonight. And Jennifer just wanted to tell us how wonderful the homeschool and apprentice programs are and how much it contributed to the purchase of their family farm. They're incredibly grateful to NCOF, and they're so honored to be working with us and now providing us with beef. So we wanted to say thank you for again and again and again to the Nisis for being such a cool family and for working with us. We really like working with you guys. And then the last question I have here is for Haley again. Does the current chicken coop have the space for as many egg layers as we're planning on having this year? Or are we planning to spread that out between multiple buildings?
Good question. So yes, our egg laying coop is definitely sized for 200 birds. It needs a bit of a layout change inside, but the like square footage houses that many overnight just fine. Because a huge thing to remember is that our chickens do not stay inside other than overnight for predator protection. However, we do have some plans in the works to extend the coop backwards to sort of be able to grow egg production more in the future.
That's great. That's all the questions that we had come through. Nikki, back to you.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks, Erin, for coordinating that. That's it. That's our annual meeting. So just leaves me to say a huge thank you for everyone that joined us this evening. This will be available on our website. If you have friends or family that missed it and would like to watch this at a later date, take a look at our website and share the link once it's up there. But otherwise, we really look forward to the upcoming year and everything that we've got planned. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.